AITA for calling their biggest rival after they cut my salary by 58%. I sat before them in that stuffy little conference room, pretending I didn't notice that something bad was about to happen, but you could feel it. That weird corporate air, the strong smell of industrial carpet cleaner, and fear in the atmosphere. The fluorescent lights hummed, the Keurig in the corner gurgled, and a dying ficus drooped to one side, as if it wanted to give up too. Molly from HR was there with her enormous glasses and a folder in her hands, as if she were about to announce I'd won a cruise. "Adam," she said in a tone that was too soft. "We've completed the compensation realignment review." I knew that phrase. I'd seen it pop up in the company's Slack channel like a ghost, but I didn't expect what came next. "Your new salary package will be $62,000 a year." I just stared at her, then at Grant, my new division head from Dason, a guy who couldn't tell a server rack from a coffee maker. He didn't even look up, just scribbled in a notebook as if this were routine. I did the math in my head, from $147,000 to $62,000, a 58% cut without a single explanation. I felt the heat rise up my neck, but I didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing my reaction. I just gave a single nod and said, "I'll think about it," as if they were offering me a different health plan and not cutting the ground out from under my feet. Molly smiled as if I had just accepted a piece of cake. She slid the folder across the table. "This goes into effect immediately." Immediately. Same hours, same responsibilities, same deadlines, for less than half the money. I didn't say another word. I didn't curse. I didn't throw a chair, though I wanted to. I just stood up, took the folder, and walked out of that room as if I wasn't falling apart inside. The second those glass doors closed behind me, my hands started to shake. I walked to my pickup truck on autopilot. I got in and just sat there. No music, no calls, nothing. The steering wheel felt like ice. My mouth was as dry as paper. The only things that came to mind were the mortgage, groceries, child support, Hunter's baseball cleats, Owen's school field trip forms, Christmas. What the hell was I going to tell my kids? I sat there for almost an hour trying to breathe, staring at the dashboard as if it could show me a way out. Then, I started the engine, drove straight home, and parked in the garage without even getting out of the truck. I just sat there, engine off, watching the porch light flicker, as if it were also about to go out. That job was supposed to be the one thing I could count on. I joined Anford in 2014. We were 10 people squeezed into a shared office space in Spokane Valley. Bad carpet, even worse coffee, no air conditioning half the year, but we were a unit, hungry for results. Everyone gave their all. It didn't matter what your position was. In fact, we didn't even use titles, just results. You either made it happen or you didn't. And I made it happen. The first year, I worked every holiday. I slept under my desk during a server crash that lasted 3 days. I missed my youngest son's first school presentation because the deployment window changed at the last minute. I told myself it was temporary. I told my wife the same thing. It wasn't. By 2019, I was managing 8 major corporate clients. Over 60% of the service revenue ran through my pipeline. I was the guy they called when a client was furious, when a server fried, or when a project exploded out of nowhere. I made everything work, always. Then came the divorce. She left me for some guy named Gavin, a yoga instructor who posted shirtless selfies in Cabo. She moved to San Diego, saying she needed to breathe. She left me the house, the boys, the bills, and no idea how I was going to balance it all. My job became the anchor, the only thing that made me feel like I wasn't falling apart. In 2021, when Dason Corp bought us, they held a big Zoom meeting. "This is about scale and opportunity," the CEO said, laughing as if he'd just discovered a new market. What he failed to mention was that 6 months later he would walk away with $4.2 million and a consulting gig in Switzerland. We got a new logo. Then came the management bloat, more meetings, more bureaucracy. They made us create weekly presentations instead of solving real problems. The layoffs started slowly. First the administrative staff, then operations, then the mid-level managers. No explanations, just calendar invites titled Status Update. My team went from 6 people to 2. The workload didn't. I started taking calls at 10 p.m., apologizing to clients for outages I hadn't even been told about. I started deploying patches to the live servers by myself, half asleep at 2 a.m., because we didn't have enough development support. The stress wasn't just bad, it was devastating. I started yelling at my kids for leaving cereal boxes open. I would doze off at red lights. My hands would tremble for no reason while I was typing. But the truth is, loyalty only serves those who profit from it. When the cuts came, they didn't come for Grant or his little group of Dason yes-men. They came for the people who carried the company on their backs, the ones who built it before it was even worth buying. And still, I didn't see it coming. I only realized they had stopped pretending I mattered when Molly handed me that joke of an offer. That's when it hit me. They were done with me. I got out of the truck, went inside, and poured myself a drink. I didn't even finish it. I stood at the sink, staring at my reflection in the microwave door, trying to swallow the panic rising in my chest. That's when my phone vibrated. Nolan Blake. I hadn't heard from him since he left Anford 6 months ago. Smart guy. He got out at the right time. I answered. Adam, have you been on LinkedIn lately? He asked. I laughed. Man, I've been too busy trying to keep my head above water. Suppose I should take a look. I'm at Sorville Dynamics now. That got my attention. Sorville was the only real threat to Dason. Bigger budget, smarter leadership, less corporate red tape, more action. Our execs are always asking about you, Nolan said. They know what you built. They want to talk. I didn't answer right away. My heart was already racing, but my voice stayed steady. Do they know I'm still at Anford? They know you're the reason Anford hasn't lost any clients since the acquisition. He wasn't exaggerating, and we both knew it. I'll call you back later. I replied and hung up. I went to my home office, closed the door, and pulled my original contract with Anford from the back of a drawer. I read every line twice. No non-compete clause. Nothing to prevent a new job. We never had to sign anything like that. Anford used to be about trust. That was their mistake. I opened my laptop. Not to download anything. I didn't need to. The information was already in my head. Years of notes, relationship details, contract patterns, client frustrations that spreadsheets would never show. I knew when the CEO of Lumacher's son had surgery. I knew Kintratech was about to renew, but was furious about their billing. I knew the internal politics at Grayson Global like I'd written them myself. This wasn't data theft. It was earned trust. I called Nolan back. Set up the meeting, I said. Tomorrow morning. He didn't even try to hide the smile in his voice. Perfect. 8 a.m. Denny's on 5th Avenue. No fancy conference room. A diner. That's how you know it's serious. After the call, I sat there in the dark for a while, hands laced behind my head, heart pounding in my chest. They thought they could break me and that I'd thank them for it, that I'd take it quietly like a good employee and disappear while they outsourced everything overseas. They forgot who answered the phone at midnight when no one else would. They forgot everything I had already overcome. I closed the laptop, walked down the hall, and peeked into my son's room. Both were asleep, Hunter half off the bed, Owen wrapped in his blanket like a burrito. I stood there for a few seconds, letting it all sink in. This wasn't about ego, it was about them. I had two choices: keep getting walked all over or remind them who the hell I was. I turned off the light, went back to the office, and prepared a folder with everything I needed to walk into that diner ready to fight. The next morning, I pulled into the Denny's parking lot 10 minutes early. I didn't even bother to dress up. Jeans, boots, and a black polo shirt. If this was a real conversation, I wasn't going to look desperate. Spencer Grant was already inside, sitting at a booth by the window, no suit, just rolled up sleeves and a watch that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. He looked up, gave a single nod, and pushed a cup of coffee toward my side of the table before I even sat down. You take it black, right? Yeah, I replied. Thanks. No small talk, no fake smiles, just two men looking at each other with a lot of history in their eyes. I got straight to the point. Dason bought us, gutted the company, added 2 extra layers of bureaucracy, and called it progress. I held things together, cleaned up the messes, and kept our biggest clients happy. He didn't react, just nodded like he'd heard worse. He probably had. They said it was a realignment, I continued. But what it really was a message. And what message would that be, he asked. That I'm disposable. That they think I'll accept scraps because I have mouths to feed. Spencer leaned back, crossing his arms. We tried to hire you twice. You turned us down both times. I was loyal. Yeah, he said, his gaze sharp. And what did that loyalty get you? I didn't answer. He took a folder from his bag and slid it across the table without a word. I opened it. $178,000. Bonus structure. Full health plan. Dental. Vision. Stock options. Real money. A real future. Immediate start. I kept my hands on the folder, but didn't close it. Why so much? I asked. He leaned forward, his voice lower now. Because you've maintained a 94% client retention rate over 5 years. That doesn't happen, not in this industry, not with the resources you had. I stayed silent, letting that hang in the air. You were the only reason we couldn't pry 5 of Anford's biggest accounts away, he continued. Every time we tried, we heard the same thing. We trust Adam. Then he dropped the bomb. Word is Dason is moving your entire department offshore later this year. They're forcing turnover so they don't have to pay severance packages. This pay cut at step 1. I stared at him, my throat dry. Is that confirmed? I asked. 2 different sources. We've even seen the vendor proposals floating around. That explained everything. I closed the folder but kept my hand on it. I'll give you my answer by 3 p.m. Spencer nodded. He didn't push. He just took a sip of his coffee, as if we were talking about baseball. But I already knew this wasn't a job offer. It was a rope thrown into a flood. I finished my coffee, slid out of the booth, and walked back to my truck. At noon sharp, I walked back through the doors of Anford as if I still owned the place. My badge still worked. I guess no one had deactivated me yet. The receptionist gave me a tense smile. She had probably heard something. I didn't stop to chat. I took the elevator to the 4th floor, marched down the hall, and walked into conference room B as if I wasn't about to blow everything up. Grant Wallace was sitting at the head of the table, impeccable hair, watch gleaming, looking like he had somewhere more important to be. He looked up from his tablet with that smug little smile, as if we were old golfing buddies. The HR rep, Molly, was beside him, hands folded in her lap, eyes fixed on the floor. Adam, Grant said, putting down his tablet. We need your answer. I pulled out a chair and sat down across from them, calm, controlled. I have a few questions first. Grant leaned back in his chair, already visibly annoyed. This isn't a negotiation. I wasn't planning on negotiating. Who's going to lead the Gryson implementation next month? I asked. He blinked, confused. That's no longer your concern. Yes, it is. The client was told I would be managing it personally. They'll adjust. I smiled. Are you outsourcing the division in 8 months? Molly shifted in her seat. Grant didn't answer. So I asked again. You're moving my department offshore, right? Silence. Finally, he said, I don't know what you think you know, Adam. It doesn't matter. I stood up slowly and deliberately, still holding the folder. I'm not accepting the pay cut. I'm resigning. Effective immediately. Grant let out a short, dry laugh. You can't just quit. Of course I can. Section 7B of my original employment agreement. No notice required in the event of a significant change in compensation, like a 58% cut delivered with some weak coffee. Molly's head snapped down to her papers, flipping through them quickly. Her hand was shaking. Grant's jaw tightened. You'll be hearing from our lawyers. Why? For breathing too confidently. I leaned forward and looked him dead in the eye. I haven't taken anything that isn't mine. I didn't copy any files. I didn't forward a single document. All I'm taking with me is my reputation. The trust one built with my clients. That's mine, and I'm taking it with me. He tried to speak, but I was no longer listening. I turned to Molly. Do you have a resignation form in that folder? She gave a barely perceptible nod. Hand it over. She did. I signed it. I stood up and buttoned my jacket. Grant scoffed. You think this is some kind of power move? No. I replied as I walked to the door. That comes later. And I walked out without looking back. The next day, before lunch, my voicemail was already full. 11 missed calls, all from Anford, all furious. The first was from a regional VP, wanting to clarify the nature of my departure. The second was from the legal department. The third was Grant. He didn't even leave a message, just hung up after 2 rings. Coward. By mid-afternoon, my personal cell started lighting up with names I knew like family. Gryson Global, Kintratech, Lumacor. All of them confused, all of them angry. Adam, we were told you'd still be leading the transition. What happened? Why are we hearing about this from a junior employee and not you? I let them talk, let them vent. Then I told them the truth, short, clean, professional. Anford made decisions I couldn't agree with. I've left. That's all I can say for now. They understood. You could hear it in their voices. That moment when anger turns to comprehension. Soon after, texts started coming in from what was left of my old team. Screenshots. Panicked emails assigning accounts to employees who barely knew what the software did, telling clients someone would be in touch by the end of the week when they needed solutions yesterday. One of my team members, Qley, messaged me saying they tried to put a new hire on the Lumicore account. She thought it was a hardware account. I replied, check your email in an hour. Sorval already had everything prepared. Offers were sent out that same afternoon to Qley and another one of my best guys, Travis. Both had kids, both had bills, both were hanging on by a thread, just like I had been. They accepted before sunset. That night, I got an email from Molly. Subject, breach of professional conduct standards. Pretty bold, considering she couldn't even look me in the eye the day before. She wrote, it has come to our attention that your departure may not have followed professional best practices. We expect more from someone in your former position. I didn't even blink. I just replied by attaching a screenshot of Section 7B from my contract. Notice not required in the event of significant reduction in compensation, and copied Anford's HR legal team. Total silence since then. They wanted me to leave quietly. They expected me to bow my head, grateful for whatever scraps they threw me. Instead, I walked out and struck a match. And now they were watching it all burn. Day 3 at Sorval. I was finally starting to breathe normally again. I got my badge, my laptop, my Slack login. A real office, not a folding chair in a corner next to the printer like I'd had for my last 6 months at Anford. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go, but something told me to answer. Adam Mothers. Yes, this is Victor Dason. Just like that. No assistant, no go-between. The CEO of the parent company calling me directly, the guy I'd only seen in investor videos and photos with mayors. Funny, he probably didn't even know the whole story. Guys like him never do, not until the damage hits their inbox. He didn't waste time. I've been made aware of the client movement following your departure. There is concern about the impact and rumors of active poaching. I kept my voice calm. I resigned. They followed me. That's not illegal. That's loyalty. He paused. Grant says, let me stop you right there, I said. Grant offered me a 58% pay cut in a windowless room with no warning, no severance, and conveniently forgot to mention the planned layoffs for after Q2. You call that leadership? Silence. What would it take to bring you back? I laughed. I couldn't help it. You think this is about money? Everything is about money, Adam. Not to me. This is about respect. Something I gave for 10 years and never got back. He didn't argue, just changed the subject. Can we match the Sorval offer? Or can't we beat it? You haven't yet. Then what do you want? I leaned back in my chair, feet propped on the corner of my new desk, looking out at a skyline that wasn't mine yet, but would be. You want to know what I want? Stop treating the people still there like garbage. Fire Grant, and stop threatening to sue the guy who just wanted to leave quietly. You're not leaving quietly. I didn't respond, keeping my tone neutral. You made sure of that. There was another pause, longer this time. This call never happened, he finally said. Fine by me. He hung up. I put the phone down, cracked my knuckles, and opened my inbox. Time to get back to work. 6 months later, I had a corner office, a real title, Director of Client Integration at Sorval, and 18 people reporting to me. I still came in early, still stayed late when I had to, but now the effort was worth it. My kids were sleeping better, and so was I. In the first 4 months, 5 of my old clients left Anford. I didn't reach out to them. I didn't send a single sales email. They came to me. Adam, are you still managing accounts? We're not getting any response over there. Can we move everything to your team? Anford panicked, slashed prices, offered ridiculous deals to try and keep clients. It didn't work. Turns out, relationships are worth more than discounts, always. Molly, the HR rep who pretended not to see anything in that conference room, was transferred to another division, something generic like internal development. Grant resigned, which probably means he was pushed out the door after botching 3 client transitions and trying to fake his way through a software demo he'd never seen. As for Dason Corp., they quietly shelved the outsourcing plan, no announcement, but I heard from 2 different managers that the contracts with foreign vendors were simply canceled. I even ran into Mr. Porter, my first boss at Anford, at a tech conference in Portland. He saw me from across the hall, pushed through the crowd, and pulled me into a hug like we were family. "They did you dirty, Adam," he said. "I'm glad you landed on your feet." I smiled. I didn't land on my feet. I leaped. And that's the truth. The money is great. The freedom is too. I work from home 3 days a week. I choose my own clients. I get to skip useless meetings. I don't miss the grind. Only the part of me that thought grinding was the only way to be recognized. But the real victory was saying no. No to being undervalued. No to swallowing insults with a smile. No to giving another year of my life to people who thought I'd never have the guts to leave. Now I go to my kids' soccer games. I help with homework. We have dinner together at a real table, not out of the driver's seat. I sleep more than 4 hours a night. I still work hard. That will never change. But now I do it for people who know the value of what I deliver, people who respect it. I used to think loyalty was everything, but I learned that self-respect is worth more. And if you're out there, stuck in a job that's slowly killing you, thinking you have no way out, listen closely. You do. And sometimes all it takes is a single phone call to set the whole damn cage on fire. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.